Hi everybody, Al Bernstein here with another one of my quick hits videos, and on this one we're going to talk about an event that I think is going to be very significant for the sport of boxing, the World Boxing Super Series, which will have tournaments in two weight divisions. It'll be 8-man tournaments in both the super middleweight division and the cruiserweight divisions. Today we're going to talk about the cruiserweight tournament. In both of those divisions, they will be battling for the Muhammad Ali Trophy, which is a new trophy that has been created. Of course, there's going to be great prize money as well for these great boxers that are in the tournament. And not only have they brought together some of the best boxers in the world, but also some of the best boxing promoters in the world. Among those who will be participating, Richard Schaefer, who of course is very well known here in the United States, Kelly Sauerland, whose company in Europe has done so much great work, and the Camosa AG company is at the head of all of this, organizing these two tournaments. Now, the format of these tournaments, and we're going to talk about the cruiserweight one today. We'll get to the super middleweight one in a future quick hits, but the schedule is basically that the quarterfinals will be held starting in September. And it will go on through until the tournament ends in May. It's single elimination, so there'll be a initial round, then there'll be semifinals, and then of course the finals. And as I mentioned, there are 8 fighters in each of the tournaments, and in the cruiserweight tournament, which we'll talk about today, there are 8 fighters. And let me tell you something: they have loaded this tournament with the very best cruiserweights in the world. It's actually extraordinary because 3 of the 4 world champions are represented here, and the level of competition will be extraordinary. Let's take a look at the tournament bracket and how it lays out. First of all, we're going to see champion Alexander Usyk taking on former world champion Marco Huck. That's going to be on September 9th. Usyk is the WBO champion. He's the #1 seed in this tournament. This 30-year-old who is a very talented southpaw, is 12-0. He was the gold medalist at the 2012 Olympics, and some feel he may be the best cruiserweight in the world, but we're going to find out in this tournament. Huck is 32 years old, former WBO champ. He defended that title 14 times, and he's been in some of the greatest fights of the last decade. He is one of the people that has proven my point that there are almost no bad cruiserweight fights, and believe me, he's been involved in some of the best. Then on September 30th, Mairis Briedis will take on Mike Perez in another first-round matchup. Briedis won the title from Huck in April. He's 22-0. He's got 18 KOs. He is a very, very good puncher, and he'll take on Mike Perez, who is a 31-year-old who was a former heavyweight contender, a top 10 heavyweight, but he has now dropped down to cruiserweight. Now, as a heavyweight, he had 14 knockouts in his 22 fights, so clearly he was able to knock out some bigger men, so he could well bring some power down to the cruiserweight division. And I've always long believed that smallish heavyweights like Perez, when they come down to the cruiserweight division, it's a good idea because they can have some success. He decided to join this tournament and adds a different flavor to it by being a one-time heavyweight contender in it. Then matches that don't yet have dates but will be announced, their dates will be announced shortly. Murat Gassiev, the IBF champion, will take on former champion Krzysztof Wlodarczyk. This is a terrific matchup. Gassiev, at 23 years of age, is one of the younger fighters in this tournament. He is a man with unlimited potential. He beat Denis Lebedev for the title. He's 24-0 with 17 knockouts, and he is technically a very proficient fighter. And of course, he has power as well. Wlodarczyk at 35 was the WBC champion. He defended that title 6 times, and he has been involved in some tremendous fights over the years in the cruiserweight division. The other seeded fighter, there were 4 seeded fighters, Junior Dorticas, Cuban fighter, is taking on Dmitry Krujishov. That one is a very interesting matchup because Dorticas, the 31-year-old Cuban who is 21-0 with 20 knockouts, has tremendous power, but probably hasn't faced the level of competition that most of these other top cruiserweights have. Krujishov may be the hardest hitter in this whole tournament. From a skill standpoint, this 31-year-old Russian may not be where Garcia and Bridis and maybe Usyk is at, but he is a powerful puncher. They call him the Russian Hammer. He's 21-1, and guess what? Every one of his victories has come by KO. So here we have these 8 fighters in the cruiserweight division, and all ready to do action. And, you know, I mentioned there's 3 world champions among them. There's 2 former champions, and of course, 3 are top contenders. The thing I love about this tournament, number one, is the division it's in. Cruiserweights make the best fights in boxing. Sometimes they get the least attention. And that's why, also another reason why I'm glad that the folks who put this tournament together decided on the cruiserweights as one of their first weight divisions to do, because this division needs something like this to announce itself to the public. And it's especially true here in the United States, where I think sometimes the cruiserweight division has gotten lost many times. And as you can see by the list of fighters, for the most part, it's a division that has been dominated by Eastern Europeans and from fighters from other parts of the world. And so sometimes American fans don't get to see them as much, but certainly in Europe, the fans are keenly aware of them, and they know how great these fights are. So this tournament will produce, I believe, some fantastic fights. You know, you have the 4 fights at the beginning, then the 2 semifinals, and then the final. You know, that's 7 fights. I will be shocked if 5 of the 7 aren't not just good, but classic encounters. And a reminder that it's all getting underway on September 9th when Alexander Usyk takes on Marco Huck. That's going to be in Berlin at the Max Schmeling Arena in Berlin, and it will kick off this tournament. They are still getting ready to make an announcement on the TV outlets for the tournament. And when those announcements are made, I will do another quick hits to talk about that. Of course, it will be all over the news, but they're getting ready. They will shortly be announcing how many of the fans can see these matches, both in the United States on television and also in Europe. But I can assure you of one thing. There's some great boxing. And in 2017, a year in which boxing has had a spectacular year, to me, this is icing on the cake, because during the course of this year, we're going to get the first round of these tournaments, both the cruiserweight and the super middleweight, and we will have a quick hits talking about the super middleweight shortly. But we'll get the first round. The first round of these tournaments, that's 8 fights, will produce some classics, I guarantee you. So I am delighted to be able to talk about the World Boxing Super Series. I think it's going to be a special event for boxing, a very good event for the 2 weight divisions that will be represented. The one we're talking about on this one, especially the cruiserweight division, and I think it's going to add a lot of pizzazz to the sport of boxing.